We are looking to expand new home builds in this space. DHA want to do, I think it's at least 550 new home builds in this space over the next 5 years. So
I know there's new regulations around it, but yeah, they can be long-term deals. They guarantee, there's loads of guarantees around it, so I reckon you can probably kind of go into it.
So essentially, what is DHA? In a nutshell, it's to create rental properties for families that are relocating due to defence purposes. Okay, not necessarily just Navy, but Air Force and normal Army as well.
Yeah, and a lot of the defence will have maybe 3-year contracts or 2-year contracts. So they'll go and live there for 3 years and then move, and they need somewhere to put the families up, or
correct.
Or if it's single guys, they might put 3 or 4 in the one house. That kind of thing that we'll do, right? So that's how it works.
This is the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde from Evolution House and Land Specialists and Catherine Smith from Build Bright Builder Brokers.
If you guys are looking to build in WA or simply curious to see what's going on in building, you guys are in the right place. We're here to give insight with professionals in the game, coming to give the inside scoop. Episodes are uploaded weekly, so don't worry, we don't skip a beat and you won't either. Like, share, subscribe, sit back, relax, and let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde.
And Catherine Smith, good morning.
How are we?
I'm excited. Hot topic.
Yes, I can't wait for it. No guest today though. Just going to be us rambling on about exciting stuff.
I love to ramble.
Well, I say us, you, because this is you're all over this stuff.
I'm all over this, but I can definitely talk for 15, 20 minutes. If you've got a 15, 20 minutes spare, please listen in. This is a really exciting opportunity for everyone.
Good for investors, people that are in the military to understand, not the military, the defence forces that understand this stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about DHA, or the Defence Housing.
Yes, so Defence Housing Australia, DHA.
Not association, common the thread. I didn't know what it was.
No, so essentially this is becoming a lot more of a hot topic, particularly in Perth, because we are looking to expand new home builds in this space. So DHA essentially have reached out to the building partners and land developers in Perth because they are expanding rapidly, particularly around, which is the Henderson Precinct project, which is just off Rockingham there. If you don't know, Rockingham is sort of the south coast of Perth. What do you say, for a 50-minute drive, somewhere there?
Yeah, also known as God's country.
God's country. Now, full disclosure, Tony's from Rockingham, so he might have a bias.
Just a little bit down that way, yeah. I'm a Southie, mate.
We're both Southies, but you're South.
You're posh South.
Yes, okay. So anyway, with Rockingham.
You didn't say no, you little Kate. It's been a long day, guys.
It has, but no, this one we're excited to talk about because with Rockingham, essentially DHA want to do, I think it's at least 550 new home builds in this space over the next 5 years. So cool. Minimum 120 for 2025. So I'm heavily working with them to get the ball rolling there. So essentially, there's a few requirements that's needed. So they're having about 1,200 families from the US coming over the next 5 years. And then they have a lot of families coming from the East Coast, basically, to live around that Rockingham area. So the whole project, I think, is about $7 billion the government's put aside for this, marine training. But in saying that, we have to obviously accommodate all these families moving in at quite a rapid pace as well. So obviously everything is stagnated because there's only so much land in that area. And to do a DHA home, it needs to be within a 30-kilometre radius of Rockingham. So we can go probably as north as, say, a Mandongala, east as, say, a Mundijong, and then south, I would say, a Lakeland somewhere there. So that's
Medora Bay sort of thing, yeah.
Medora Bay, yeah. So that's sort of the catchment area, if you will, for all the families. And yeah, so it's an exciting space. But what I find this particular product would suit is more like those East Coast clients who are like, in the media, they're saying Perth boom and how to invest in Perth. We get that a lot through our podcasts and things like that, but they don't even know where to start, where this is sort of like a no-brainer, like investment opportunity for them, essentially, because it is that sort of lock and set and forget kind of concept.
Yeah, and there's, I know there's new regulations around it, but yeah, they can be long-term deals. They guarantee, there's loads of guarantees around it, so I reckon you can probably kind of go into it. But
so what we're finding is because Perth's still so affordable in terms of the capital city around Australia. A lot of people wanting to invest in Perth. And then banking off that, the rental yields you get in Perth are much higher because the prices already are quite cheap, but we're also in a rental crisis. So the price for rents go up really high. And that's why we're getting a lot of investors. But they're almost like, well, how do I start? What should I invest in? Where should I invest? There also is that fear, you know what I mean, when you're on the other side of the country and going, well, how do I have an investment property that I can't physically see or manage or be involved if there was an issue in that kind of thing.
And just, I want to jump back because there's a bit we didn't explain about why Rockingham area. There's a Navy base. There's a naval base called Garden Island.
Yeah.
And that's where it's got a big submarine fleet in there, or there's a fleet has a base in there. There's a new submarine training facility and all that. It's all in there. I know this because my father's in the Navy, well, in the reservists now, so I know a lot of information. So that's why that area is a hot topic for this.
Yes.
This because, a lot of the Americans that are coming over are going to be submariners.
Yeah.
There's a talk of the nuclear subs that we've bought, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things around, and that's why it's going to be the Rockingham, and that's where I mentioned that 30 radius area. Yeah. Just so you, in case, like, why would they be there? Because we didn't mention.
Yeah, that's basically where the base will be for the Henderson project.
Yeah, that's where it's.
Yeah. So essentially, what is DHA? In a nutshell, it's to create rental properties for families that are relocating due to defense purposes. Okay, not necessarily just Navy, but Air Force and normal Army as well.
Yeah, and a lot of the defense will have maybe 3-year contracts or 2-year contracts. So they'll go and live there for 3 years and then move, and they need somewhere to put the families up, or
correct.
Or if it's single guys, they might put 3 or 4 in the one house. That kind of thing that we'll do, right? So that's how it works.
So how it works is the government or Department of Defense in this case will actually lease the house from an investor for 12 years. So it's a 12-year lease. And obviously that is extremely enticing if you're not in this state to invest in, because you can just literally lock and leave for 12 years and you kind of have a sort of set and forget mentality. Now, why that's important is they will then sublease to the family. So let's say that family is going to come for 2 years, for example, and then they would sublease to them. But the actual DHA will be on the lease themselves. So that will be who's on the lease with the client or the investor, sorry.
Yep.
Landlord in this case. So if that property is vacant, let's say there's like 2 or 3 months in between families transitioning over, DHA will actually still pay the rent. So because they're the actual tenant themselves. So you actually have 12 years of no vacancies, which is I don't know, unheard of in any other in sort of investment property opportunity that I've looked into. So 12 years, you have guaranteed rent. Now, of course, why people like that is particularly people who've looked into having an investment property before, and then what happens is the tenant doesn't pay, they don't pay on time, you have to go to court, they break the house or whatever. These are just normal families that are, renting from the government because they had to relocate from work, and you're very much covered in terms of anything going wrong in terms of, getting paid for your rent.
Guaranteed paid, right? Guaranteed paid.
Exactly. So that's by far the biggest enticement is 12 years, no vacancy rates, and 12 years guaranteed rental income. Now, how that also works is every 12 months, the government will appoint a third party, so like a Ray White or whoever, to do a new market appraisal on the rent. So you actually just get market rate, okay?
Because it used to be you signed it and it would just stay the same way. So that's the big change, and that's a massive change.
Yeah, so that's what's exciting. So it's because right now our rentals are increasing rapidly every 12 months, as you know, because we're in a rental crisis in Perth. So what happens is the first year you might get $680 a week, okay? And then Ray White will come in, or whatever third party, and then they will redo it every 12 months. So even if, let's say, they're subleasing to a family for 3 years, okay, it's every 12 months, and then the price will be adjusted into your thing.
And the defence family get a cheaper rate, and it's all worked through their paying us. So that's why defence.
Yeah, so it's subleased for them. So yours, So you as the investor, you will get the market rate, okay? Also, what's really good is everything is sort of, in terms of the new home build space, they want to do the new home builds because then it's compliant to what they require for their families. So what's happened now is, obviously the people came from Canberra and they realised the established market doesn't really suit what would they deem as compliant for their families, or probably not as a higher level of what they would want. So they said, look, we really want to do more new home builds so we can actually build from scratch and make sure it works for us, which is great for us. But what that means is we've had to really scratch all floor plans, start them from scratch, and making them compliant for DHA compliancy. So, of course, you have things that we wouldn't have in a standard new home build, which is like letterbox clotheslines, things like that. But there's other things we need to consider. So things like security, alarm systems, because what would happen is a submariner may be out for 2 or 3 months, and it's the security of the home, but also might be vacant for a while between tenants as well.
Cameras and things like that, or is it just the like an alarm system?
Alarm system, there's not an actual camera, but they also have a lot more security screens and things like that.
Yeah.
So a bit higher, more deadlocks and things like that. But yeah, there's quite a big shift, more anti-con in terms of energy efficiencies, and yeah, different bells and whistles in terms of room sizes, al fresco sizes, and all the rest of it.
Because it used to be really hard to do it, but now I believe they've made it more feasible, which is why the new build new homes is going to be like you just build it as you want it, right?
Yeah, so it's basically, this is the floor plan, it's compliant, it's ticked off by DHA, no changes, this is it, because they want those nicer homes for their families. They want people to want to be part of this project for the long term, particularly people who are relocating from overseas like the US. You know, they want them to feel very comfortable and have a high standard of living, which is great as an investor, because then you're actually having a premium build. You know, you're not having an entry point price point. Obviously, it's fully ducted, reverse air conditioning, overhead cabinetry. You have microwave recesses and all sorts of things that we wouldn't have as standard. Stone throughout, a lot more hardware and tear and that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, right, okay, yeah, it makes sense. And then again, you know what the standard is. Yeah, it might look like it's going to cost a bit more money to build this thing if you're an investor, but 12-year guaranteed. You know what are you going to pay off on that? It'll be what the equity and payoffs you make is going to be huge.
But also at the same time, let's say if you were to sell in 12 years, the house is actually a much nicer home in terms of standard and quality.
And if you weren't going to live in it, just sell it straight back to someone who's going to do it as an investment for the DHA. Do you know what I mean? They already built to that.
So you actually also, what they're doing is they're doing a 12-year lease with the option to renew. So you can either, because the project itself is going to go for 20 years, so they want to go, let's go 12 years minimum, and then option to renew either 6, 9, or 12 years. So they want to obviously be doing that as well. So if you are a client that's supposed to do 12 years, cash out, get equity, great. Yeah. But you can also just extend it and even have a longer lease as well.
And I wouldn't stress about what's happening in 20 years, because if you've got a lot of sailors, there's going to be a lot more, and I'm not saying it just sailors, but a lot more, there's going to be a lot more, the population will grow, put it that way.
Yeah.
With single guys coming over, meeting ladies and stuff like that, and then all that kind of thing. It will happen. And that's not me making stuff that. If you go and look at all these Navy bases and where or RAF bases are, it just happens. You know, the population grows.
Because so they're predicting by 2030, Perth will be just behind Melbourne for population growth.
Yep.
First will be Sydney, Melbourne, and then Perth. So we'll be the third largest.
Like 800,000 people, they reckon, is going to, that's the population growth in that time. That's a lot of people.
But also in terms of that catchment area that we referred to before, there is so much development, so much growth happening in that space. And I know you're a fan because you live there, but there's just
there's tons of land that's not even touched yet. I mean, you can see it.
And we're just releasing it.
You just drive down Mandurah Road and you can just see it. That'll be land.
And what excites me is what it's going to look like in 12 years. Yeah. You know, and that's when people will be obviously capitalizing on their investment. We go, what's going to happen in 12 years? This is going to be completely different, particularly if you get anything coastal and everything like that.
Garden Island's going nowhere. They'll never get rid of it.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much stuff around Garden Island that will never go there. But yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of DHA, the other part of it is the property management. It's not a standard property management. Yeah. Okay. So what they actually do is they just do a higher property management fee, but they include all the maintenance in it. So they, for example, you know, check your smoke alarms, and they, you know, have the plumber come out and check maintenance, and they do the aircon servicing and all those things that cost more money. They actually just put it in an inclusive fee. Even things like marketing fee, lease agreements, property condition reports, all of that's included.
Okay.
So you know how you have your standard, which is about 8-9% property management fee in Perth. They have it higher at 15%, but they include it all. So if you break it down, you're actually more upfront with DHA, right? Which we have done, because everything's included. It's set and forget. And it's easy.
Is there an option with that percentage then for it, like just to take it off your rent getting back, so you don't actually pay anything? So say you're meant to get like X amount of dollars, you could just have that 50% taken off the rent that they give you.
Yeah, that's what I do.
So you don't. So you're living out of pocket, and really you're just like, you know what I mean?
So how it is it's like you have an online portal.
Yep.
Let's say you rent $700, they take $70 a week, whatever. You get $630 in the bank, but you don't have to do anything. So basically every month you get a report. They pay 1 month up front.
Okay.
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 So you're never behind in terms of rental, and you can check in every couple of months and see what they've done. They'll say, oh, we checked the gardens, this and that. Even also what's important is when the property is not vacant, they're very big on protecting your asset, and they will do the gardening, they will do the lawn mowing, they will get the letters from the letterbox, take the bins out, and they want to make sure it looks like someone's living there.
Yeah.
Now, this is important. If you're investing from Sydney, you want the house to be safe,
That's
okay,
protection.
between vacancies, okay? So you don't have, dead gardens in there. They're keeping the upkeep of the
But
house
if
between tenants.
If someone breaks in or that, they repair it all, they cover it all. You don't have any outgoing.
You would have a building insurance like any standard investment property. Okay, so if there was a broken window, now there's two parts to this. So if the defense family broke the window, thrown the ball, then they would have to cover it out of their bond, like a normal lease. An intruder came, okay, then that would be covered by your builder's insurance.
It's the same
So you're not out of pocket because you kind of either. Or, for example, if there's a structural issue, that's also what they want new builds is because you have the 25-year structural warranty, okay? So if there's major plumbing concerns or something like that, you'll fall under warranty with the builder, you'll fall under builder's insurance with your insurance company, or it'll be the tenants covered. So you kind of know where your overheads are going to be for the 12 years, okay? So that's why people like it because they're going...
front.
It's all covered, and then you can actually do your tracking for the.
That's what you want for it. That's what you want for investment. It's like guaranteed money. This is going to be like market value. So everyone's it's almost fair across the board, right?
Yeah.
Let's say, and they used to this. I know that they would always return it back to original when they'd always return it back to originals. How you gave it over, right?
Yeah. So they have a fair wear and tear conditional. So what Tony's referring to is after the 12-year lease, they want to give it back in a fair wear and tear condition. So what they'll do is they will repaint the house, they will change the blinds, most likely change the carpets after 12 years, things like that. And then why that's great, particularly if you're, say, in Sydney, you don't actually have to come back, renovate the house if you want to put it on the market, or if you want to start renting it privately and want to bring it up to standard. That is that sort of end of lease takeover that they keep it to a nice condition and have it freshly redone for you. So
and it's
you don't have to come over and deal with it.
And it's in their interest to keep it like that even through the 12 years because they want to keep you happy, and also they don't want their clients complaining about the state of the houses.
Correct. So between tenancies and things like that, normally standard out of the bond, if there's issues, they will organise something to be repaired or painted, and that will come out of the tenant's bond. Yeah.
And we know this because we've got a friend that does the property stuff in that space for DHA.
Yeah.
And she's like, the new homes will be a blessing for her because the older homes are just not suitable for what they're.
And that's why she was finding it so difficult to find stock for them. And because we're just having such a rapid growth of people coming into this space, they really need to be, getting serious investors. So what it is it's actually that very rare opportunity because most defence housing is actually in regional areas. It's very rarely in a capital city. So this is that unique opportunity because Perth's obviously on a boom, going to be the third in terms of population growth very quickly. So to get a DHA long lease 12 years in it's such a hot spot in terms of a capital city, that's where the opportunity lies,
Absolutely.
When we talked to Defence, they also stated like if you were to do a regional defence housing, they've actually changed the model where defence housing will actually build the homes. They'll buy the land and build them themselves. But in capital city, they want the investors because it's such a lucrative opportunity. It reduces the holding costs for the government as well, just to lease back. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that's changed from when I was doing it a few years ago. That's way easier to get your head around and sell. Right?
Yeah. So it's one of the, let's say a classic example, a client's in their 40s, they're busy, they got kids, they're busy at work. They just want to invest in property in a good capital growth area, a nice capital city, but they don't have time to deal with, tenants and issues and everything like that. This will be the ideal scenario. You literally set and forget for 12 years, you get paid 1 month up front, you get a report what they've done on the property every month, and you don't have to, deal with the hassle of tenants.
Any issue, you deal with the DHA direct and
away you go.
Yeah.
So
well, if you're watching this, give us a shout. We've got it for you. We'll get it done.
Great. Thank you for listening.
Like, share, follow, subscribe, and stuff when you want to do your investments. And I live down that way, so I can literally go and check it for you as well. So how good is that? It's like a double.
Yeah, Tony's down in Rockingham. He'll film your whole house being built.
That's it. Exactly. Okay. Thanks, guys. Peace. Bye.
This is the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde from Evolution House and Lawn Specialists and Catherine Smith from Build Bright Builder Brokers.
If you guys are looking to build in WA or simply curious to see what's going on in building, you guys are in the right place. We're here to give insight with professionals in the game, coming to give the inside scoop. Episodes are uploaded weekly, so don't worry, we don't skip a beat and you won't either. Like, share, subscribe, sit back, relax, and let's go.